What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video on the Hooked On SuperCoach channel. In today's video, we'll be looking at sort of the 5/8 options in NRL SuperCoach 2026. But without further ado, let's get stuck into today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you guys are enjoying this preseason content. Today, we've got a very familiar face on the channel. Sol, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Back-to-back eps. Forgot to add that part in, hey? Yeah. Yeah, geez. We're pumping out the content for you guys. So, yeah, it's good to be back on. Good to be smashing out this before NRL season. Keen to, talk some more Supercoach with you. Doesn't get much better than that on a Wednesday night.
That's it, mate. That's it. And yes, guys, we're pretty aware now that the Supercoach season is almost upon us, kicking off next Sunday. So we're trying to get this preseason content out for you guys so you can assist in your sort of pickings in sort of each position. And then we'll send a closer on to the season. We'll do our sort of final team reveals for you guys. But as we mentioned, today's video is going to be about the 5/8 position. Just before we get started, if you haven't already, don't forget to join our league. The league code is 847723. So if you haven't joined already, join up there. But without further ado, today we can get stuck into the 5/8 position. And the 5/8 this year, there isn't that much going on. I don't think it's a sort of too big of an exciting position this year. Mate, what are your sort of initial thoughts on the 5/8 and how do this sort of the new changes in the scoring system, how does that affect the 5/8 position?
Yeah, I think it's a terrible position, to put it bluntly. How does it change the 5/8 position? Well, I think you're looking for more people in your halves. When you're picking your halves, you want people that score their points majorly from running, so tackle breaks and tackles. So not so much the creative stats. So I'll be looking for 5/8s that do that, that they have the strong base and they're running halves, basically. That's what I'm looking for.
Agreed there. And so, yeah, this season probably you want to deviate away from your sort of, more creative, like try assists, as you mentioned there, with the change to sort of the sweeping play and how that's being awarded. Your 5/8's the only way you get try assists pretty much now is if you're that last pass or if you're the last one to kick it, sort of thing. So yeah, with that in mind, it kind of does shake up the halves and the 5/8 position. And so yeah, it does affect sort of how you're planning on setting up this year in 5/8 in Supercoach. So without further ado, we can get it kicked off with. We'll go by, as per usual, highest ranked price to lowest price. Kicking us off, I suppose, Fletcher Sharp. Any interest on your end there, mate?
Yeah, there actually is. He's my boy as well. I really like Fletcher Sharp. Had him last year, and he is probably the best support player in the entire NRL. Even watching the trial, I think it was 2 weeks ago, not the one against the Dogs, but the one he was partnered with Sandon in the halves. He's lined up in the six jumper. It might have been against the Dragons. Anyway, there was a little play and he was like screaming. This is what he does. There'll be a player carrying the ball and he'll be screaming behind them for an offload. He goes, yep, yep, yep. And he has his hands out like that. As soon as he gets the ball, he's straight running a straight line. And he's usually through the gap and it's really danger signs. And I'll take it back to the start of the video where we're talking about running halves. He is the definition of a running half. Will always be looking and sniffing around any attacking opportunities. He's a great tackle buster, great support player. Gets involved in the tackles, and the stats change is not going to affect him much. So I love him as a player and actually as an option. He's a huge pod as well. The downsides though for him, one, we don't know his role, so I think it's silly personally if he's not in the starting side, or at least not in the halves. For me, that's my opinion. Halves or fullback, he can't be wasted on the wing, and he should not be in a bench role. That's my take on it. You should never be punished as a player because you're versatile. You should always be putting the best players in positions where they get their hands on the ball more. And Fletcher Sharp is exactly that. He was their best player last year, and he should be in the spine. That's as simple as that for me. Like, you find a way to make it work. You look at the Storm; they had Cam Munster and Jerome Hughes, both fullbacks, playing in the halves. The Titans are sort of converting to that with AJ Brimson and Jaden Campbell. You put them in these positions and you make them work because they're talented enough players. Fletcher Sharp is exactly that. So I'm hoping that Holbrook does the right thing and plays him in one of those positions at 6 or at 7. That's what I'll be doing, but obviously I'm not the coach. And if he does, I think he's a massive option and a huge pod. Playing in Vegas, the Knights have all day games. So yeah, I like him for those reasons. The negative is don't know the role, plays for the Knights, which are the worst attacking team in the comp. Even in that side last year, look at how he's priced. So if you think they go better, there's room for improvement. I can't really think of too many more negatives, mate. I think if you can pay up the price, if he's starting at 6, he's a massive consideration for me, in my opinion. I like him, got more excitement factor than Cam Munster, more room to grow. I don't really see much downside to him other than you're paying 730K.
Yeah, I think definitely there the price is the biggest caveat, along with sort of the role. As we said, we're recording this in the preseason content, so I think round 1 team list will be a massive sort of indicator for him. It will be interesting to see how the Knights and how Holbrook does end up deciding to shape up that spine. They've obviously brought in Dylan Brown to fill a position somewhere that isn't too sure, but look, it's funny. I didn't have Fletcher Sharp last year, and he did. He did my absolute head in. He was one of those players that whenever I seem to not own someone like a Fletcher Sharp sort of build, they just go nuts, and they do. So Fletcher Sharp, he's got incredible upside, incredible ceiling. The caveat to that is his base is nowhere near as safe as I feel like Cam Munster. Cam Munster just gets that base, those tackle busts, that elusive sort of play. Fletcher Sharp is elusive and he's super quick. So I think he's a bit more of that creating, attacking upside flair pick. For a super coach perspective, I think at that price, 730,000 is just so much money to spend. I think there's sort of 2, maybe 3 premiums that are options, you can say, at 5'8". He certainly is one of them, but the main caveat with him is round 1 team list. So if he's there in the 6 or the 7 jersey, I think he's an option. Well, even in the fullback jersey, again, I don't quite know how the Knights are going to shape up this year. They've kind of got too many chefs to fit in. It'll be interesting to see how they do. But yeah, just at this point in time, there's not much interest from my end. I think the other caveat, as you mentioned, there is the Knights, and I think sort of the Knights will be running hot to get the spoon this year. So, yeah, look, as a 5'8" option, I think if he starts, he's up there in the top sort of 2 options. However, if he doesn't start, that puts all appeal through him. So yeah, I think he's very dependent on round 1 team lists. But for me, even if he does get named that round 1 team, I think I'm just more sort of interested and I prefer to just back Cameron Munster. So that maybe leans into the number 2 option, Cam Munster, pretty nicely here. Mate, what are your thoughts on Cam Munster?
Yeah, like he's solid, right? Like he's very solid. He's tried and tested. He's a player that's been if he's not the best in the position, he'll be top 3. You can pretty much bank on that, or top 2, guaranteed. So positives with him are he doesn't have a bye for a very long time. Same as we said with Harry Grant in the Hooker podcast. The Storm have a pretty good draw. They don't have a bye, so you can just lock them in the position that's quite troublesome and forget about it. Same as Fletcher Sharp too. They don't have a bye for a while, but I'll continue on talking about Munster. So that's one of the positives. Lock and load. You can just leave him, set and forget. You know that he's proven to be he's a proven option in that position, and you can bank on him being finishing in the top 3. He could step up and take more responsibility with no Pappenhausen this year. We saw towards the end of last year with his play, him and Xavier Coates had a huge link up. He's got 2 tower wingers, massive kick targets on the wings, which is huge for his try assist. We know that he loves running, tackling. He's a tackle bust threat quite often. The thing that I don't so much like about Munster is that he's very, very, very rare, but he's one of those players that, he will play against a weak side and it's a weak matchup and he will do nothing. And then against the Panthers or one of those big name teams, he just turns up and will ton up. It's really weird with him, and that's one of the things that I don't like is because you can't really pick when he is going to go off. Basically, he's never really a captain option, and you're spending a lot of coin on someone that you're never really going to consider as a captaincy option. Basically, at 682,000. So the negatives similar to Sharp is the price. Positives are you can just lock him away. But if I was to pick between him and Sharp starting at the six jumper, it's Sharp every day of the week for me. I disagree with your comment on the base. I think Sharp's got the base because he has the tackle busting ability and he's always sniffing around for the ball. Like even more so than Munster. Like it's Sharp just won't score under 40 points if he starts in the halves.
Interesting there. Yeah, look, I think the main real attraction to Cam Munster is just the fact that in such a troublesome position in 5'8", that you can just lock him away. And, if you're starting with Cam Munster, you can very easily finish the season with Cam Munster. You'll have banked all his points throughout the season and he'll be up the top end of 5'8". So you kind of get that security, I suppose, and knowing that you've got to pick. You don't need to sort of waste or burn too many trades on bringing him in. If you're bringing him in, it's kind of like a season hold. That's why price doesn't matter too much in that regard, because even if he goes down 100K, if you're holding him for the season, it doesn't matter. You've already paid the 682 starting price for him. Then the other side of that is when he heads that form, when he has those games, he'll go up to almost 800K sort of price there for Munster. And so, yeah, at this point in time, I am starting with Cam Munster as my sort of starting 5'8". I think 5'8", as we touched on earlier in the pod, is just a pretty dire, honestly, position this year in Supercoach, and I'm not really looking to dick around too much with trades and try to attack fixtures and matchups and stuff like that. So for me, just to lock that trade, save the other potential trades, Cam Munster is locked in for me. Again, I don't mind going elsewhere, but I don't think I would be going up if I'm not paying up for Cam Munster. I think I'd be going down sort of a fair way there, which kind of leads into our other 5'8" options. Alexander Brimson, nothing really to touch on. Same as almost Sharp. We don't know where he's going to play this year. I think he'll probably end up in the centres again
No,
for the
he's
Titans.
confirmed starting six.
Oh, confirmed starting six. Well,
Yeah.
there you go. If any interest there then with him confirmed starting six?
Nah, not for me. He's just too expensive for, his stats at six aren't aren't great. He's obviously better when he plays at fullback for Supercoach as well. So look, I think he's a good player, but at 650K, would rather spend up and get either Sharp or Munster at that point.
Agreed there, mate. We can I actually do want to touch on Ethan Strange before, but anything on Daly Cherry Evans? Any interest there?
No, just new club, new role. Is he going to take a backseat to Sam Walker? We don't know how it all clicks. You got him, Sam Walker, and Tedesco all fighting for attacking stats, basically. And Cherry Evans, he's past his running days, so I don't know how and he doesn't goal kick. So I don't know where he's getting his points from. I don't really like that. Same as Brimson, you're spending that money, go up to Munster or Sharp.
Agreed there, mate. Going on to the fifth most expensive option at 5'8", it's my boy Ethan Strange. Now, for the listeners, obviously, if you watched last year, you'll know that I traded him in when I didn't have many trades left. I sort of went for the pod route, and boy, oh boy, did it pay off, both good and bad. So Ethan Strange, he is sort of one of the caveats as opposed to a Sharp and Munster where they have that base. Ethan Strange last year's, he has two ends of the spectrum. You've kind of got his games where he does nothing, doesn't really get involved. He might get 20 to 40 points sort of in those base tackles, in tackle bust. One of the thing is he is I think he's probably the strongest 5'8" in the competition. His tackle breaking ability is, well, like when he's on, it is awesome to watch. And I kind of classify him almost like a Blake Brayley in that sense. They had that real breakout year last year, and so yeah, Ethan Strange for me there is a little bit of interest there. I know news has come out, and I think he actually publicly said it that he's going to be playing on the right this year. So instead of playing on the left, which was with Huddy Young, which they did combine for plenty of points, he is unfortunately in my opinion, being moved to the right. So good for maybe your Matty Nicholson, but I think Ethan Strange and just Ethan Strange on the left to me is a better option, and so that is probably the only reason why he is not in my side. Otherwise, I would be starting with him over Cam Munster because, as I said, he doesn't have the same base as Munster, but we've seen last year he has that attacking threat, and I remember the game very clearly. I think he scored a hat trick in about 10 or 15 minutes. So he went from about 20 points to about 110 points in the space of about 20 minutes there. And so, yeah, look, I really like him as an option just because of the fact that he's now going to be playing on the right hand side as opposed to the left, sorry. That does hurt his appeal in my opinion, and purely based on that fact is why I'm not starting with him. But he's someone that I really do love, especially as a pod. Mate, what are your thoughts on Ethan Strange starting with him?
I hate him as an option to start the year. Actually, in SuperCoach, I really don't like it for a couple of reasons. So, number one, new halves partner. Number two, he's switching to the opposite side of the field. Number three, the Raiders got the minor premiership last year, and he was the Dally M58 of the year in a massive breakout year. How much better do you think the Raiders can go, if at all, and therefore him? So, for him to take another step up, the Raiders have to be up there again and scoring similar or more points, and he has to be involved more. Do I do I see that happening? No, I don't. I think the Raiders fall back a fair bit. Not not hugely, but I still think they make the eight. But I don't think they're going to be minor premiers this year. I think with a new halves combo, no, a new halves partner, sorry, switching sides of the field. He hit an all-time high last year with, the Dally M58 of the year and the Raiders winning the minor premiership. I don't see where the improvement comes from. Obviously, he's young and he can get better as a natural progression. He can become a better player, but that's all you would be hinging on, hoping for is that he will be even better than Dally M58 quality that he was last year in a team that won the minor premiership, and they're going to do even better. So, if he was goal kicking, it would make it more interesting.
That's
But
what I was just about to say. Now Fogarty's gone. We saw last year when Fogarty was out, Ethan Strange kicked. Would it
it
change if
changes.
he was kicking?
No, it would change a bit if he was kicking. He would become more appealing for sure. But I think Jared Croker came out and said that it's been Sanders that he's been coaching because Croker is the kicking coach down at Canberra. So yeah, I really dislike it as an option, especially to start the year as well when the defenses are a bit more tight. And you mentioned the low base, like he's just not for me at all.
Fair enough there. So there you go, guys. Differing opinions with Ethan Strange. Uh, anyone you want to sort of touch on here that stands out to you, mate? Cody Nicarima, Ezra Blaze?
Yeah, look, I thought when Team Picker came out, I had a bit of a look at both Cody and Ezra, actually, but not anymore after the stat changes. They rely heavily on, or at least Cody does, on his create, out the back sweep plays and passing the ball. Basically, that interest was formed off the base of how well I think the Dolphins are going to go this year. So I think they'll go very well this year, and they're going to put a lot of points. And Cody Nicarima is going to be running that sweep line, creating a lot of them out to Herbie and Cobbo on the left edge. However, with the stat changes, my interest has sort of been removed. Now, as a man, he is interesting. I like him from Munster down. Like he is the option so far that we've got to that I like the most from the list, just because I think he's got another gear to go to. We saw last year that Walsh took the reins of their attack, and Reynolds is getting a year older. He's coming close to retirement. So Ezra has to step up. And I think this year he can step up and, sort of level out with Walsh, because it was just the Walsh show last year, and it's been Reynolds, and Ezra Man's sort of been the forgotten man with his suspension last year. I think this year he has to really step up and start taking a bit of pressure off Reece on the attack. And I think he is going to do that. So I do see improvement for Ezra.
Interesting there. But yeah, I think the main real caveat to all these sort of picks is that these guys are all players that don't really have much base and relied previously a lot on sort of that creative attacking threat. And with the changes now happening to Supercoach, I think we see, well, Cody's average I definitely think will decrease. And Ezra's, I don't think it would increase. Sure, he might get a bit more attacking play going through him instead of Walshy. But just for me, I like Ezra's another one that just has no base. Like he just doesn't really get his hands dirty or get involved, and he's more of a streaky sort of player. So for me personally, and I can include Blaze Talangi in that pick as well. These are all three of these options are attacking creative sort of players as opposed to having that base that even your Cam Munsters, Ethan Strange to an extent, and your Sharps sort of have. So for me, it's those three, I don't have really any interest at all personally.
Yeah, neither, mate. Ezra slightly, but not a huge amount. Blaze as well, I might add, was one of the most, if not the most, impacted players from the rule change. I think his average dropped like 11. Don't quote me on this. I don't want to give our listeners bad info, but it was significant, like 10 points or so in his average. It was terrible. So don't like him. Moving on to the next guy, Matt Burton. Just want to say, because I owned him last year, I will never own Matt Burton again in Supercoach. He was the most frustrating person to own. Every game, something wrong with him. We even saw it in the trial. He's gone off with a hamstring complaint. Every game last year, it's his knee, and then it's his fucking hamstring, and then it's his bloody quad, then it's his arm, then it's his fucking... Oh, just so frustrating, mate. Owning that guy. I had my heart and mouth every single game with the shit he was pulling. Also lost the goal kicking to Stephen Crichton. The rule change as well. He's one of those guys that relies on attacking stats, and he's also just... I watched him very closely, obviously last year, owning him pretty much all year, and he just stays on his left edge, like just sits there, he never moves. Like he never moves from his left edge as a half, and I just think that's the biggest waste of him. He needs to be connecting with Galvin, and to be in fairness to him, like a new halves partner in Galvin did come in mid-year last year, but he needs to get his hands involved more. But he just doesn't do it. He's just happy sitting there on the left side, and yeah, I know it's not another rant Burden podcast, but I just thought I'd play that. Do not get Matt Burden in your Supercoach side at all costs. I think he's a horrible option. Has a buy in round 2 as well.
There you go, listeners. We are, well, Sol is the biggest advocate against Matt Burden. So you can pretty much start with anyone in 5'8", but Matt Burden.
Or Strange, mate. Or Strange.
or Strange. See, I reckon Strange is good, but yeah, I agree completely with Matt Burden.
All of them horrible, mate.
Yeah, just not it really. And I'm pretty sure it's come out. Was it today that he's going to be missing Vegas anyway? So I don't really know, if you're watching this at least, why you would be starting with him unless he is sort of named. But then again, there's plenty of better options, and you've been banned off getting him in this year if you listen here. Yeah. Moving on to someone I know that you have some interest in, mate. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, Purdue is actually my 5'8" currently at the moment, provided he plays at centre. So he has to be named at centre, and Clifford in the halves. That's where I'm at with it. I will start with Purdue as my starting 5'8". I love the duel. I love the Cowboys draw. I love the upside and the potential that he possesses, progressing further. The Cowboys can't get much worse than they were last year. They have to get better, and if they do, Purdue can be a beneficiary of that. I think at centre, he's also it's sort of like a cheat code having him there with the stats changes, because he's going to get try assist too to wingers. And I love the draw, and I love their draw too. So they play the Knights in Vegas, which I think, he's just one of those players similar to Fletcher Sharp that he really does seem to just find ways to score tries or to be involved in attacking opportunities. He's just got he's one of those players that is like that. There's very few of them, but Purdue is in that sort of mold. So I really do like him as an option a lot, and I don't really see him moving from my side at all. Like I think I am, provided he's named the number 3 at centre, he will be my starting 5'8" to start the year. Yeah, I couldn't speak highly enough of the guy. I think he's in for a better year than last year, and he's a very talented football player.
Huge, mate. Huge. I definitely can't argue with any of that. And I just want to mention for the listeners here, he is probably the first position so far at 5'8" that will actually benefit to the new scoring changes. As you mentioned there, with him playing centre and with the way sort of centres and second row forwards are a bit more desired more this year compared to previous year. And so, yeah, Purdue is actually, well, he should see an uptick in his points scoring, especially if he is, as you said there, named at centre there. So I think he's a great pod. Like, I don't know if I would be starting with him,
I
but
don't
I
think he's
think
going to be a pod, mate, to be
pod.
honest.
Do you reckon he'll be high ownership?
Yeah, his ownership just keeps increasing. It's because of the bloody trials and the try he scored on the weekend, and also him
Cowboys
being
were
named at centre. Yeah, it put a lot of people
on him.
onto him, So I think he's actually going to be one of the more highly owned 5'8s, to be honest. To be honest with you,
Interesting. And it
yeah,
makes sense, right? It makes sense. You've got a center playing out of position, which usually you wouldn't want, but this year, especially with the scoring changes, yeah, that's probably a tick for him rather than a cross. And so, yeah, interesting. Wow, there you go. So there you go, guys. A good little pick there in Jaxon Purdue. I'm sure you guys are probably scrawling to get him in now. I'm definitely gonna consider him as an option compared to as I wasn't, because I'm pretty sure it's all but confirmed now that Clifford is going to be starting in the halves. So that should see Purdue starting the season in centre. In saying that, I don't think he finishes the season in centre. I think he is, as you mentioned, he's like your Fletcher Sharps. You want, for the Cowboys' perspective, you want his hands on the ball because stuff just happens around him. And so, yeah, I think at some point in the season, I don't know when, he will shift to 5'8". And I think when he does, that probably hurts his scores compared to centre. But then in saying that, who's to say Jake Clifford just doesn't kill it this year? So yeah, good point and good options there, mate. Well, any interest, I suppose, in his actual 5'8", Clifford?
no, none. I will throw in someone here though. So unsure yet what we've obviously chatted about Fletcher Sharp, but if Dylan Brown is named at 6, which seems to be the way they're leaning, which is also why a lot of people, including myself, which is why I think Fletcher Sharp's at like such a low ownership, other than his price, is that people think it's going to be Dylan Brown and Sandon. If it does pan out that way, Dylan Brown will be the 6, and he will get dual before Vegas. So he slots in right between Harris Tavita and Clifford at 535K, and he is the other option that I would consider at 5'8". So far, if I was to rank them as viable options at the moment, you got Munster, you got Sharp, you got Munster, you got Purdue, and then you would have Dylan Brown. So that's where I'm at with it. Be one of those 4. I think any of those 4 are good options. Depending on obviously the positioning of Dylan Brown if he gets a duel and Fletcher Sharp if he's in the halves. They both probably aren't going to happen. Like I doubt Fletcher Sharp's going to play 7 and Dylan Brown's going to play 6 and get the duel. Like it's one or the other sort of thing. If Sharp is playing, he'll be 6, and I would assume Dylan Brown would be the 7. But I'm going to say that at the moment they're leaning towards Sandon and Dylan Brown combo and Sharp elsewhere, which really annoys me. Like just seeing that, because Yeah, I don't believe in that. I think Sharp needs to be in the starting side, but I'm not going to bang on about that anymore. Dylan Brown's a great option if he gets a duel as well.
Good stuff there, mate. And yeah, I agree. Dill Brown, again, he probably benefits a bit more with the new stats. He's sort of that base attack a player. And so yeah, he might see a tiny little uptick if he does play in that 5'8" and does get the dual position there. But again, for the Knights, I really don't know how well they're going to go this year. I think they're going to get the spoon, and so on the
Jeez, really?
yeah, I think the Dragons are going to do better than the Knights. I think they're the most too popular for the bottom at the moment. But I actually don't hate the Dragons. Like they're just one of those sides that win ugly, that win these close games
I
somehow.
I I agree. Yeah, I agree with like they win ugly, but gee, their team sucks. They lost to the a second string bunny side in the Charity
Yeah,
Shield. I think I'd be siding with the Dragons there. If the Knights, where they're kind of opposites, right? Like the Dragons have quite a good forward pack, but not much flair going on. Like their halves are Flanagan, like Flanagan's in your halves. You're not really creating much. You got Gutherson and Cook creating points, whereas the Knights they lack in the forwards. They don't have much grunt in the forwards, but they've got a lot of spark in the backs, which I think that's what actually stops you from being wooden spooners. You can't have Ponga, Sharp, Dylan Brown, Bradman Best, Dom Young, and tell me you're getting the bloody spoon. Like there's no way you can have those sort of quality backline players that put points on and get the wooden spoon. I just don't see it.
and it's
Whereas,
funny. The irony in that is the Knights can't score points.
yeah, it is, but it's it's their structure. Like I don't know what it is. Like it's just stupid. Like they need to be playing Sharp, Ponga, and Dylan Brown together. They're quality attacking players, and they just work. They will work it out because they're too good not to. That's how I see it. They're three awesome attacking players, and they will figure it out in the spine. But yeah, I've rambled on enough about that. I think Dylan Brown's a good option for you know, like we've seen it before with him. We've seen him hit 700k plus, be in talks. It's either him or Munster starting 5'8" in previous years. He's coming off a really down year where he played a bit of centre, was dropped to the bench. So there's a lot of upside there. I guess it just comes down to how much you believe in the Knights. But if you watch Dylan Brown play the internationals for the Kiwis, he was unreal. So if you can replicate that form, in the NRL, he's 100% undervalued. So I really like him as an option, almost as much as Purdue at centre. Like it's very, very close.
Huge. There you go. So Justin Holbrook, take notes. They'll figure it out. You got to have to somehow figure it out. They should be scoring at least one try. Like I just couldn't believe, like at home they could not score. So yeah, we've probably been a bit distracted there, listeners. But hopefully
Hmm.
you've enjoyed that little rant. So if you're a Knights fan or a Dragons fan, let us know in the comments down below. Who do you think is going to win the spoon this year? And then we can compare to see what you guys think. But back to the video and back to the positions in 5'8". Jerome Luai, I just want to quickly touch on. He somewhat interests me a little bit. So obviously it's confirmed now that Dewey is going to be the 7 and Luai is moving out of the 7, which is what he was signed for 1.2 million, and he's going back to 5'8" to just play a bit more eyes up footy. So apart from the signing side of things, I actually like it for the Tigers. I think Luai obviously is just playing his best when he has that eyes up footy. However, the new scoring system does hurt him. He doesn't have the greatest space, and he sort of is a bit more of that creating attacking player. But at 465k, so you got to remember he's almost 300, 250, 300k cheaper than like a Sharp. I don't mind it, but obviously the round one buy, there's plenty of risk there, and I think this is probably my Tigers bias sneaking in big time. But yeah, I just don't hate Jerome Luai as an option. I think he's somewhat feasible.
Yeah, look, I, if you said that before the stats change, I wouldn't mind it because I was with you. Like I did have a look at him before the stats changed when it was confirmed that he was going to 5'8". He plays a lot better for Supercoach at 5'8". I think the Tigers are going to be better this year. He's very creative, but with that stats change, there is absolutely no way you can start with him. He yeah, turn me sour on him. Similar to Nicarima, relies solely on the creative points, which I don't like. He's got the buy in round one. He's at an awkward price, and his base last year was 16 points actually. So he's terrible. You're relying solely on him to get like 4 try assists to crack 80 points maybe or 70 points. Like it's just too much.
Too risky of a pick.
Yeah, don't like it. So
Anyone, again, listeners, we really don't think any of these guys are interesting or it should be considered. Like Flanagan, LKT, Savala, Brooks, Trindle, maybe. No, big no.
Big no.
Billy Walters, no. Oh, here we go. This is certainly a very popular option. I think he's the second highest 5'8" by ownership. Cody Walker. Mate, what are your thoughts on Cody Walker?
I think if you were thinking about Luai, the person that we just spoke about, save 80k and go down to Cody. I can't do it myself. Just the injury stuff and also the stats changes as well. So he's one of those players that will rely on creativity. The things why I don't mind it though, compared to a Luai, is because he has Fafita and Latrell next to him. Number one. Number two, we've seen Cody Walker year after year reach these high heights. Be involved in the Cameron Munster sort of echelon of 5'8" when you discuss Supercoach. So like for those reasons, I don't mind it, and also the cost saving that you get with him and what it allows you to do with the rest of your side. But I can't. It's not for me. Like I did have a build where I was playing around with that for a fair bit, and I just thought to myself, I'm gonna regret this. I know I will, because when you start with him, say you start with him and he gets another injury, like he's been so injury prone last year, or he doesn't start off to the fast start that you were hoping for, then you got to find all this money to move up or to move to someone. So that's why I don't like it. I would prefer to wait and watch, see how he goes, and then maybe have a look at getting him in, depending on how he looks. But look, he's an great attacking player. He's got, can't ask for much of a better edge than AJ, Fafita and Latrell. And I think, that will be the dominant edge, and he will get a lot of try assists off the back of that. But you're purely banking on that and hoping that he can, deliver those try assists early doors so he can get the price rises.
Definitely, mate. I agree with you there. So I literally agree with everything you said there. I, like yourself, considered him as an option, but yeah, I just can't do it. We've seen he does have these games where he can go nuts and can hit that 120, 130 sort of score, but on the other side of that, we saw last year, even without the scoring change, he has these low games of 10, 15. Like he he is a creative attacking player. He doesn't have the base stats, the tackle busting, the workload. He is very much that creating attacking player. As you mentioned there, that left edge is probably one of the best left edges in the comp. I'm sure he's going to get a bunch of try assists. However, are they going to be counted as try assists this year in Supercoach? I guess that's kind of the big issue there. And yeah, look, as you said, at 400k, he's not cheap, he's not expensive. He's in that middle ground, but if you get stuck in that middle ground, it kind of makes you having to boost early in the season to fix that issue up, whether you want to go up or down. And yeah, look, I'd much rather be reactionary and say Cody goes ton to start the year. You can bring him in round 3, he'll make you a bunch of cash, but I just don't see it personally. I think he's a year older now. He must be about 40 at this point. But yeah, look, like I can't knock him. I can't knock him. I just think there's better options. There's better
All right, mate. I'll throw you something now. We're just coming off the back of a hooker podcast, so I think In my opinion, you can't go mid-ranges at both 5'8" and hooker. You have to spend up and get a gun in one, or at least, be a bit more solid in one of those positions. So a lot of people at the moment are battling with team builds where either they go a Marnie or a Simpkin and they combine that with a Cam Munster, for example. Do you prefer that, or do you prefer the Cody Walker combined with a Grant or a Brayley?
No, I definitely prefer a Cam Munster locked in with a
Marnie
Simpson
Simpkin.
or a Marnie. Yeah, I think. What is your sentiment the same with that?
It's actually uh, I'm
It's
not
a
too
lot
keen
closer
on
for me.
I'm not too keen on Munster, to be honest. If Sharp got the six, then yeah, it would be. But as it stands at the moment, I would be with assuming Sharp doesn't get the spot, I would be leaning in the other camp. I would be more willing to take the risk on Cody and spend up at my hooker spot.
Interesting. So there you go. There's plenty of ways you can sort of play this year, but I agree with you completely. I don't think you can go Cody and Pezet, who we'll get onto very shortly, and then a Marnie and Cheese. Because then,
Yeah.
yeah, you've got no guns. Sure, your centers or your second row forwards are gonna be stacked, but you're gonna want to fix up that position, and you're gonna have to then trade or move cash around, which uses trades, which we only have a specific number of. So I agree with that. For team structure wise, well, as you've seen with my team, I've got both Brayley and Cheese, and then I've got Munster and then Pezet, who we'll get to very shortly. I've got Gun, Cheapy, Gun, Cheapy. You could, as you said, you could go Midi, Cheapy, Gun, Cheapy, or Midi, Cheapy, Gun, Cheapy. But yeah, I just don't think you could go Midi, Cheapy, Midi, Cheapy. So
Yeah,
yeah, agree with
I'm
that.
with
And then
you.
Cody Walker, yeah, look, he's an option, right? He's an option. If you back him in and you think they're going to go all right, then you certainly can play him there. And I think he's the best option at that price because moving down this list, there's not much interest, mate. So
Well, mate, I'll tell you this just before we finish up on Cody. If you're so against it, like I don't have him. I have definitely called off him. But when you put it in the way of like, are you starting with Latrell and Fafita?
yes,
Yeah. So they were two of the very first picked on my side. Where are they getting the ball from? If you back them in and you back them to get attacking points, who are they getting the ball from? It's almost 80% of the time going to be Cody. That's the reason why. Um, Yeah, that's the reason why, you can take a swing. And if you have faith in those two, which a lot of people do, then you have to have a little bit of faith in Cody. That's my opinion. But yeah, my sort of doubt doesn't come from the performance and the quality of the stat changes as much, because I do believe in the attacking upside of him. It's the injury concern for me. Like I need to see him healthy, back and playing a few games first. Last year was too in and out.
fair enough, mate. And like even off the back of that, for me personally, I would prefer pay up that 60K more and take a risk with Luai. I think I don't know, mate. This is
Yeah,
definitely
but
talking.
no, yeah,
I
no,
rate Luai. I think he's an alright option. I know the 5'8" scoring isn't great, but I don't know. I've never been, I suppose, I've never really been a big Cody Walker fan. He's kind of rocks all diamonds, and yeah, well, that's what you sign up for. You know what you're signing up for, and at 400K, certainly not a wrong price. I think is a viable option, no doubt.
yeah, fair enough, mate. Yeah, not with you on the Luai over him section, no.
There we go. Again, none of these are really options here, but the next option is here we go. Jonah Pezet. I think he's probably in
He's not.
100% of teams, or should be 100% of teams. Oh, sorry, were you about to say
Yeah,
something?
I was gonna say he's not an option. You have to have him.
Agreed. I think
He's yeah, he's
he's almost in the same. Actually, he's not in the same category as Cheese. I think he's that level above Cheese. I have to agree. He's a must, right? He's come big raps. He's only got the year at Parramatta this year, but he's the six. He's playing with Moses. He's basement price pretty much 235K. There's hype around him. He is. he's meant to be all right. I wouldn't be locking him in for like a 50 average every week, but I think there'll be games where he scores 60 to 70, and I think he might base around maybe 30 points. What are your thoughts? But I think he's a great option in Supercoach, and yeah, I think he's a must. But what are your thoughts on him, mate?
Yeah, well, he's a must because of the price and the role. So it's a guaranteed price role and also the talent. So one of my rules actually, I've got to venture away a little bit and talk about last year. One of my findings from last season is I want to pick players that have the talent as cheapies. I think the talent is more important than the role that they have. So we found a key example of that, Jack Kaczewski last year. So he has the role. He's a starting second role. We we scrambled to get him in. We wasted it. We both wasted the trade. I think you got him in as well, because he had the role. But we knew what Jack Kaczewski was. Nothing special. He doesn't have that young talent or that pedigree. And you look across to someone like Leka Helasima, who barely anyone started with, and he was actually 235k as well last year. I knew that he had the talent as a Warriors fan. I knew that he was this guy, but he didn't have the role. He didn't have the role, and so I backed in the role last year mistakenly. And from now on, I'm always going to be choosing cheapies that have the talent as the main sort of thing around them. Cooper Buy is another one. The talent matters more because they will find the role later on more often than not. Jonah Pezet is one of those ones that you don't get very often, where he has the talent and he's also got the role. So he's got both. So must have straight into your side. In my opinion, I don't think he's going to average a huge amount, but I think you have to have him just because he's got both talent and role. Tick both the boxes for me. As a cheapie that you're looking at, I don't think there's much more to add other than get him in, and he should be your second 5'8". I wouldn't be looking at. I don't think it's possible that you can start him every week.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, that's all.
But yeah, that's good. As I think we agreed. Is lock 5'8" this year is sort of, you got Pezet on the bench, and then starting 5'8" is up to you. If you want to pay up, if you like Sol and you're really keen on Sharp, you go for Sharp. If you want a bit more safety, you go Munster. If you want a bit more risk, you go Lawai. If you want a donkey, you go Cody Walker.
We got sell it to around.
But yeah, 5'8" this year is really, there's really only one position you got to pick, and that's just starting 5'8", and that's who you're backing, who you thinking is going to go all right. And just to summarise then, so my starting 5'8s at this point in time are Munster and Pezet, and yours are Purdue and Pezet.
Correct, yeah. So Purdue and Pezet, and if I was to rank them, I think the options are very quickly Sharp, if he starts, Munster, Purdue, Dylan Brown, and you partner either one of those four with Pezet. That's where I'm at with it. Sorry, Cody Walker as well.
Awesome stuff, mate. So to you listeners out there, drop in the comments who's your other 5'8" that's pairing Pezet at the moment. In this video, we've gone through sort of all the options we like, we don't like. As you can tell, Burton is an absolute no-go this year, so do not start with him. But we hope you guys have enjoyed. Thanks for coming on to the pod, Sol. Any last parting words?
No, that's it, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me on yet again. Time to, I guess, wrap it up, put the Lappy on charge, and could maybe, hopefully, I can feature in another podcast soon. We'll see how we go with the preseason stuff.
That's it, mate. So if you guys have appreciated Sol jumping on for us and joining the potty, give us a big like, and yes, comment down below who your 5'8" thoughts are. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers, guys.